Welcome to Dungeoneering Dunder Cheap. I am Everweird, and this is my ongoing solo play. I may just start calling this like the Gunderholfen saga, because the main idea is that I am playing the Gunderholfen Mega Dungeon using the BECME D&D rules from the 80s and 90s as they are collected in the Rule Cyclopedia. But at this moment in the story, we are not in Gunderholfen. We are in the city outside of Gunderholfen called Longfelt, and my characters have been taking on some side quests. So I'm doing some accounting right now, because in the last side quest, which was the Jeweler's Sanctum from the Old School Essentials Adventure Anthology 1, my characters received a ton of treasure. That is a great starter dungeon, and it's also a great place to just quickly level up your party, because it's got so much treasure in it. So I think pretty much everybody's going to level up. I was just going through that. I've calculated the XP and written it on the sheets for them. Talyra, my thief, has actually earned enough XP to jump to level 3. I have been looking through the Rule Cyclopedia because I'm fairly sure there's a rule about if you would ever skip a level in your level up. I was pretty sure there was a rule that said you instead max out the level you would go to. In other words, I would go to level 2 at 1200 XP. She has 2600. So I think the way that works is either I go to second level with 1201 XP, or I go to 2399, which is one short of level 3. The idea being that you have to go on another adventure and then, gain 1 XP to come back. I think that's how it worked. But I've been going through the Rule Cyclopedia and I don't find anything about that. So yeah, I've gone through the index and I've gone through the table of contents. I've gone through several of the classes. I've mentioned before how this is just sort of I love the way it's laid out, but it is sometimes like a neuro-spicy person's nightmare, because it's just walls of text and you're like, what is the thing I need? Give me the big headline. So I'm going to go to Old School Essentials. Let's see if it's pretty clearly marked in there. Oh yeah, it might just be under experience. That is a more sensible heading. Yeah, characters cannot advance more than 1 level in 1 session. Any additional XP that would take a character 2 or more levels above their current level are lost, leaving the character at 1 XP below the total for the next level. So right, as I described it, instead of having 2600 XP, which would put me comfortably into level 3, I should maybe instead have 2399, 1 XP short of level 3. I go on the next adventure, I come back. Let me see if that's documented in the Rule Cyclopedia, because this is Basic Expert, the sort of original Basic Expert rules rewritten, and the Rule Cyclopedia is the Basic Expert Companion Masters Immortals sets that came a little bit later and changed a little bit of the leveling for certain classes. So just not totally sure that it lines up. Yeah, I was looking for levels, not experience. Of course, that is a better heading for that. Yep, here it is. A character cannot gain more than 1 level of experience in 1 adventure, regardless of how many experience points are awarded. So if a character is awarded enough to gain 2 levels, trim the awarded experience points so that the experience point total stops just 1 hit point short of the amount for the next level. Got it. Clarified. Okay. So Talyra is going to drop down to 2399, but she is going to level up. So I get to roll that Thieves' HP. It's going to gain HP plus con for this level. And I don't think Thaco saving throws or... Nope, my skills do improve. Okay, but here comes my hit points. Oh, so nice. 4. And I have nothing in con, but 8 HP is great. I'm not going to argue with that. That's fantastic. She maxed out. Talyra's got max. So... saving throws do not change, but my special skills, my thieves skills, this is huge. I got a 5% bump in several skills and a 1% bump in climb walls. It's all great. Thaqual is my magic user, and I'm not really sure. He may have come up short on gaining an experience level. Yeah, he did. So Thaqual is 2200 XP after that last adventure. Needs 2500 to get to level 2. as a magic user. As I've mentioned in other videos, I love the asymmetric leveling of basic expert. I think it's really cool to have your characters, especially in a party with multiple people and not solo play, to have all the characters going up and down at different times. I think it just adds this really great dynamism to the whole experience. So Blaine, because Blaine got 2200 but only improves one level as a cleric, that's fantastic. And I don't lose that because I don't hit the next level. I don't lose anything. So Blaine gets to roll his hit die, which is a D6. I'm going to pick one of these D6s. It's going to do me well. 5. Really great. 9 HP. Likewise, Blaine's saving throws do not improve. Thaco, I don't think either of their Thacos is going to improve. I forgot that in the Rules Cyclopedia, Thaco improvement is captured in this really huge table right here. Attack rolls, all characters. Thief, 1 to 4. Cleric, 1 to 4, all the same. Fighter, 1 to 3. So fighters start improving their Thaco at 4th level. Clerics, thieves, druids at 5th level. Dwarves and halflings. Oh no, that's demi-humans. Demi-humans is the DH. They all stay the same forever? Is that what's happening? That's something I get to deal with later, figuring out the demi-human Thaco improvements. But let me get back to the cleric, because the cleric is going to get to learn one spell. Okay, so I'm going to go to my fighter company, my hirelings here. They're not really hirelings. They have the same HP as Thaqual and Blaine. They all sort of gain the same thing, and they do improve. So they go up to 2nd level at 2,000 points. So they're going to go to 2nd level. Okay, so their saving throws don't change. Yeah, so hit points. I'm going to roll this separately for each of them. Grebe. Yes. Grebe's can go up to 13 max HP. Zenith. It's going to go up to 12 max HP. Rye didn't make it out of the dungeon. And Ballad was carried out of the dungeon, more or less. I don't mind that 4. That seems sensible for what he would have improved to. So I have got a little bit of a reworking of my Dungeoneering Company sheet and how as I've detailed in Downtime episodes, and I think in a couple of my other play episodes, I've talked about how I'm trying to keep a Dungeoneering Company leveling up the same. I want to keep all their saves the same, their Thaco the same. Their AC and HP are going to change because I just think that's a little cool to have different scores there for my company. Anything to give it a little bit where it's not just a meat shield. Trying to add a little bit of dynamics to it, but make sure that I can manage those dynamics. That's maybe the best way to say it. I reworked this sheet from this to make it more about the Dungeoneering Company and that they're not hirelings. And I added this recruiting box down here so that anytime I lose a company member, that's going to go down. And anytime I return successfully from an adventure, that's going to go up. And then that will be a roll. If I try to recruit in that downtime, I will roll a reaction with that modifier. It's basically just a charisma modifier. If I fail that roll, I'm not able to recruit during that downtime. I have lost Irwin, someone before Rye, and someone before Ballad. So I think I'm down 3. I'm going to quickly fill in everything else here. This is the Dobahai division. I was going to release this sheet this week, but I want to add a level box somewhere in here to fill in the level of the party. I did receive a great comment this past week, which said this was a cool idea, but maybe my party wouldn't be able to hire a company of the same level. And I'm putting some thought to that, but as I'm trying to play it off, it's really like one big party. It's just separated into a company who are all one class, and then sort of the 4 main party members who are of various classes. My idea is that if you wanted to solo play in the same way, your Dungeoneering Company, as long as they're one class, that helps simplify what they're doing. So I think there's a great opportunity to have a company of dwarves or elves or halflings or fighters. All of those, the demi-humans and the fighters, share a lot of similarities in how they're built. I believe maybe they share hit dice and saves, something like that. If it's a company of clerics, that's great. But then you've got one set of saves and one Thaco, and you're leveling up together. I appreciate the suggestion about how to add some more tension to the game. If the Dungeoneering Company were to level up over one of the main party members, do they have some kind of sway? anyway, it's just a case, like so many things as a solo player, of having enough to manage versus too much. I think I'm in a good spot right here. I'm going to keep proceeding, until it stops working. So Grebe has a 3 AC, will eventually heal up to max hit points, which is 13. Wow, 13 hit points just sounds so rich. Zenith has a 7 AC. Maybe that needs to be improved on this downtime. Okay, so I am retiring this sheet in favor of the company. I'm going to make some changes to that. I've got some changes coming to my party sheet as well. So my party in the last session, in session 13, a couple of big things happened. At the very beginning of that, one of the leaders of my party, Virago, a fighter, who was one of the original incorporators of this adventuring party, along with Talyra, left. Virago comes from a community up in the mountains. They are a barbarian, and in the previous session, they thought they had this plan for going back into Gunderholfen and getting through this hobgoblin lair to get to the second level of the dungeon, and they were going in, guns blazing, and in the swamp on the way to the dungeon, they lost another party member. This didn't really totally dishearten Virago, but it took the wind out of their sails, I think, and made Virago think about their trajectory as a just personal trajectory in their life. So they went home to the mountains, and the remaining party, there were 4 in the company and 3 in the main party, they went into the jeweler's sanctum and lost a member in this room right here. Rye touched some yellow mold, I believe is what it was, and in room number 9, and there was just a percentage chance if you touched this cloak that it would sort of leap off the cloak and try to poison you, and that's what happened. She failed her save and died a round later. Making their way through this dungeon, they fought off a ton of these giant caterpillars who didn't do any damage when they attacked, but they poisoned their victim and prevented them from doing anything except moving at half speed. And in the course of one of those fights, they, I think, fought 13 giant caterpillars. And in the course of one of those, Ballad was bitten and failed his save and was poisoned and could not fight. And at that point, they all realized we've gotten everything important out of this place except this one room, room number 13. So they made their way back very carefully and got out of there. They had been given the job by Jessam. They'd been referred to Jessam from Balfour, the magic user in Longfelt City that is Talyra's and Faqual's patron. So they have returned to the city. When they finalized everything with Jessam, Faqual returned to him an envelope, or not even returned, Jessam didn't know this existed, but gave Jessam an envelope that they found in room 17 here from Jessam's grandfather Draxus. It clearly had a ring inside it, and it said for Jessam. Faqual had to fight off some pretty strong chaotic impulses to keep that ring, but did turn it over in the end to Jessam. And Jessam was so grateful that they would preserve this. The deal was they get to keep what they find anyway, but was so thankful for this return that he said, if I can ever help you out, let me know. And I will also, if something comes along that I think you'd be suited for, you did a great service here, I will call on you. They told Jessam that there was a spider in here that was singing and sort of, it seemed to be like luring people into that room. And they successfully killed that spider. They killed a lot of these centipedes. They report everything. They say, hey, there's some giant rats. And bear in mind, when giant rats appear in D&D, they're not like 6 feet tall. They're like 3 feet tall. It's just really big for a rat. These giant rats, they said, were peaceful and would probably leave once there's no more food down there. They did find this assistant of his grandfather's named Morlin. Morlin was trapped in a mirror magically by Draxus, and here the party freed Morlin, but Morlin, being insane, I think he was in 8, ran out here and ran into that attack with the spider. The spider ate him. So anyway, they're able to report like, hey, we pretty much locked this place down. Everything is cleared out as far as we could clear it out. There is one room that they didn't investigate. I don't think they fess up to like what happened in there. They saw a tiny little coffin in there that was chained to the floor and had a magic circle of salt around it. And before they could get to it, they had to go deal with the spider. And then Ballad got bitten in the course of like exploring these rooms, and they just beat a retreat out of there. Grebe wasn't going to let Faqual go back in here and risk more lives. That's where we are. We're back in Longfelt. Ballad is going to be in that poison state for 10 days. Blaine goes to his temple and gets one of the clerics there to teach him his first spell. So I think we went out on the 11th. Back on the 12th, Blaine is going to head to that temple. I think the obvious one is Cure Light Wounds. I don't think I need to look any further there. It is also a reversible spell. In basic D&D, spells can be reversed rather than having two different spells like Inflict Wounds and Cure Light Wounds. A cleric can learn one spell called Cure Light Wounds, and at the beginning of the day, memorize that spell backwards so as to inflict wounds when it's cast. So it's a really durable spell. It's like really useful in that sense. Cure Light Wounds. It heals damage or removes paralysis. It can cure 1d6 plus 1 points of damage. It cannot heal damage if used to cure paralysis. Cleric may cast it on themselves. When reversed, it is cause light wounds, 1d6 plus 1 points of damage to any creature or character touched. No saving throw allowed. This is really great. But a normal attack roll to inflict this damage. Interesting. Cool. I like that because it's like a touch. It's a touch spell. So yeah, Blaine spends a couple of days learning Cure Light. Faqual returns to Balfour and says, first of all, gives Balfour a ton of this magical stuff that they recovered. Is able to give Balfour a crystal crucible, a silver spinner, a tome of looping, and I believe there's another book that he recovered, the tome of black and white doom. Faqual also recovered a scroll, and I thought that Faqual would know that it was a scroll of fireball, but then in reading in the last session, realized that a magic user has to have the spell read magic in order to read a magical scroll just to know what it is. He does request of Balfour, the Balfour teach him read magic. Although he has not leveled up yet, that Balfour will teach him that spell, and Faqual will just have this opportunity to prepare one of these 4 spells that he now knows. That's going to take a couple of days. So the 12th passes as they do all of this. The 13th passes as they do all that. Ballad was paralyzed on that day. I think there's another day for Faqual to learn these spells. And Talyra during this time is hanging out at the Silver Flogger Inn, where they have always rented rooms, and meets some people from the Sewer Guild, the workers who maintain the sewers of Longfelt. And one of these says that a day or so ago, we lost one of our workers named Hal. We would be willing to pay 200 gold to anyone who could safely return Hal. Talyra is keyed into this this adventure sense now, and says, I've got a company of people that travel with me, and this sounds like it's right up our alley. She accepts this job on behalf of everyone, meets with Grebe and discusses it. Grebe says, let's go, but Ballad's not in shape, so only Grebe and Zenith are going to go with Talyra, Faqual, and Blaine. Talyra has to wait for Faqual and Blaine to be done with their training and their learning of those new spells. So in that meantime, she restocks the arrows, and that is probably all that she needs to restock. Nope, spikes. She needs to restock, and they're just hopeful that Blaine will maybe return with health potions. But I think they're good on everything else. I am a little bit challenged on this inventory. I had a really great time tracking it originally, but I'm seeing that it's hard in the moment to sit there and scratch off every arrow. I'm kind of thinking about maybe going to a resource die system. Let's put a pin in that and return to it later. On the 15th, they all gather, and Faqual and Blaine seem to have a little bit of new magic prepared. Faqual, knowing that they are probably going on an adventure this day, like Talyra's given him a heads up, does prepare magic missile rather than detect magic or read magic or sleep. And Blaine prepares Cure Light Wounds, and they are going to head out on another side quest. This is also in the adventure anthology for Old School Essentials. It is called Curse of the Maggot God. And I have not run this with players, and I have not fully read it, so I don't know what is to come. So this is much like Gunderholfen in that I'm sort of discovering it as I go through. In my last downtime, I talked about how I want to create an artifact for my adventures, like sort of an adventure journal. And I mentioned that I might try to do a map that's like nodes and lines, things like that. So I think that's what I'm going to try to do today for the Curse of the Maggot God. So the Guild of Sewer People need help finding their lost worker and have offered Talyra 200 gold for his return, dead or alive. This worker is named Hal. A few days ago, he and several other sewermen discovered an ancient chamber revealed by a tunnel collapse following a month's worth of rainfall in the region. I missed out on that rainfall. I guess it happened when I was in the dungeon. Against the advice of his foreperson, Hal went inside to take a look. Shortly after, his terrified screams were heard and the rest of the sewer persons took flight. The sewer persons refused to return, and the guild now seeks the aid of adventurers. I'm not going to read this in truth, what happened to Hal. The way I'm running this today is I've got the map for this on my iPad off camera. So I'm just gonna be glancing over there. Hopefully I'm not gonna be flipping back and forth in the book, but also maybe this helps me construct the nodes and lines because I'm gonna be a little bit more able to kind of glance over and see where I am and then focus on the sheet in front of me. Oh, that's fun. I just realized that the digital map is not numbered, so I don't actually know what's going on. So I might have to be flipping. Okay, maybe I can use this one. Right, so these sewer persons discovered this ancient chamber, which is Area 3. They are able to give Talyra a description of that. They say there is a tunnel collapse. You'll see some debris in the sewer, and that leads into this larger chamber that we found. This is interesting because there is a portcullis here. If we were to come in from the south, we would have to trigger a lever to get there. Actually, maybe that's what we have to do anyway. And in that case, I think the sewer persons can tell us where to go for this lever. So yeah, we're gonna start with Area 1 down there. In general, the sewers are hewn stone blocks. They have 10-foot high ceilings and iron grates to catch debris. There are apparently some villa chambers in here with flagstone floors, and deeper caverns and tunnels are earth with precarious timber supports. So we start in Area 1 where there is fetid water that is 5 feet deep, and all of us are kind of disgusted, but I think feeling the excitement of this adventure. They all feel a little bit like they're coming into their power. You know, Talyra has leveled up, the fighters have leveled up, and Blaine has leveled up. Faqual has learned a new spell. They're flexing their muscles, you know. So they come into the sewer entrance and they're headed north, but they realize that there is a grate that blocks their north-south progress. Right here in Area 1, there's a narrow ledge containing the lever that opens the grate. Talyra, as I said, is flexing her muscles. Some of her skills have gotten a little bit better as she's adventured, and she is going to take that back. Talyra does not have a finding secret doors skill. That is just a skill that everyone possesses. Talyra, Blaine, and Faqual are going to search for a secret door. Talyra calls their attention to it and says, hey, let's search around number 1, see if there's a secret in this ledge. None of them finds it, so that's great. In the map, I see that there's a secret door indicated, but they don't find it. So they pull the lever and open that grate and head northward. This path continues to the north, and they soon see that like collapsed rubble around that the sewer persons told them about that leads off into this room. So that is where they head, into the pillared hall. On the walls are mosaics of sailing scenes. There are 6 pillars here carved with waves and galleons. There are signs of blood and struggle with drag marks from the sewers heading east to an archway. A foul stench emanates from that archway. We are going to spend 10 minutes searching this area. It's actually going to take a lot longer than that. We're going to spend about an hour searching this area. Let's say we get started at a normal sort of early bird hour. It is 8 a.m. when we get down there, and we're going to spend that entire first hour searching here. And that's 6 turns. There are going to be 6 chances, as indicated here, for random happenings. Yep, 2 random happenings occur while they're down there. The first is that as they're making their way through the actual sewer to find this ruined chamber, they see a bloated human body floating by. And the second happening is that as they are in the pillared hall, an ochre jelly is going to appear. So let me figure out how that appears there. Yikes. Just saw those stats. Don't love that. It is 70 feet away. This chamber is 80 feet? No, it's only about 40 feet. An ochre jelly is an ochre-colored giant amoeba that can be harmed only by fire or cold. It can seep through small cracks and destroy wood. It moves at 30 feet per turn or 10 feet per encounter round. So it's pretty slow moving. Is anyone in my party surprised? Yeah, my party doesn't see this. They are intent on searching around for traps and treasure and clues in this room where there are bloody marks and drag marks, and they don't see this ochre jelly. It's moving really slow. So I'll roll for initiative, but I just don't conceivably see any way that like 70 feet away this thing can get to him. I rolled a 6. That means my party goes first. I think it's fair to say Talyra notices this first, as she is most intent on searching and kind of glances over and sees this ochre jelly moving through the archway towards them in this room. Do they know to counter this with fire? I don't think so, but it is conceivable that Faqual, in the days he spent with Balfour, asked some pointed questions. Said, we ran into some oozes, we ran into a yellow mold. Are there other creatures like this that you can give me some insight on? Let me just, what I've decided is, like, I just need to disclaim, like, in order not to metagame, I'm going to disclaim responsibility for that and just roll intelligence. So Faqual's intelligence is a 12 or under. Yes, Faqual did in fact talk to Balfour about oozes, molds, slimes, things like that, and the subject of ochre jelly came up. So Faqual is able to tell them these are only vulnerable to fire. Let's light up some torches and try to scare this thing off. Because it only moves 10 feet per round, Faqual and possibly Blaine, they don't have great range options. Grebe as well. So wow, that just leaves Talyra and Zenith. I forgot Ballad is not with them. Blaine and Faqual will hold torches. So will Grebe. They're going to sort of scatter around this ochre jelly, keeping their distance, but with big visible flames. And Talyra and Zenith will light their arrows on fire and fire these fiery arrows at this ochre jelly. Ochre jelly has 24 hit points. On my initiative, here comes Talyra. 17 is going to hit for 3 points of damage. It has 24. It's now has 21. And Zenith will fire in there too. A 14 is going to hit. Its armor class is pretty high. 2 more points of damage, down to 19. At the end of our turn, we all sort of step back, allowing the ochre jelly to come into the room. And we gain, that is the ochre jelly moves 10 feet, but can't get to us. And then I rolled initiative, rolled a 4, so we go again. So same situation. Talyra, ooh, nice. Takes off 7 hit points. And Zenith misses horribly. And then again, we step back. We're now at the very back of this room, I think. And this ochre jelly is in the middle of the room. It moves on its turn. Here's initiative. Ochre jelly gets to go again. So it moves, let me say, 10 feet towards the northwest area of this, basically trying to box in Talyra and Faqual, who are standing over there. They're going to have to move around it. They're not going to get within its range. So Talyra says, we're all just like surrounded on the other side, people. So on our turn, we move around to the other side and let loose with some flaming arrows. I hit, but only do 1 point of damage. Zenith shoots and does 8 points of damage. It's now down to 3 hit points. I think this war of attrition is going to take care of the ochre jelly here. Yeah, and that's 300 XP that they get when they can cash it in. That'll get Talyra to level 3. That'll be fantastic. Yeah, so this delays them and causes them to burn out several torches. They spend another round, I think, like sort of finishing up their search. Sorry, another turn, finishing up their search here, and there are no further random encounters. They decide the best thing to do is head to the east through that archway. So this archway leads into Area 4, which we can see the title of right here. There are mosaics of gardening scenes on the walls, waist-high black glazed vases filled with long dead flowers are around here, and there are 2 troglodytes squat on the floor here sucking on decomposed rats. However, I see in the instructions for Area 3 that those troglodytes heard us fighting the ochre jelly and are preparing an ambush. So here in Area 4, the troglodytes have somewhat hidden themselves, and they will ambush us. They will automatically gain initiative for this round. I guess that's the best way to do it. They have 40 feet of movement, so they have the same thing I do. Oh, yeah. They can change color to match their surroundings, so they are hidden behind some of these waist-high vases and pinching my party from either side. They are hateful and will attempt to kill any creature they encounter. And there's a really gross thing about troglodytes that we'll all get to experience in a moment. They rush out, and who are they going after? Well, I got 6 party members right now. They're going after number 5. That is gonna be Grebe. And number 2, that's gonna be Fequal. Breathing deep because Fequal has 2 hit points total. The troglodytes run in and do a claw bite attack. This is like a classic combo in basic D&D. Oh, Fequal. Okay, I'm just gonna roll Fequal's first. 13 is going to hit Fequal for 1 point of damage. That was 1 claw, 1 bite misses. Cracked die. Second bite misses. Whew. Okay, so Fequal is down 1 HP. We'll definitely get out of this fight. Grebe has a 3 AC. Natural 20 hits Grebe for 3 points of damage on the claw. I'm just going to leave that in and do the bite. Okay, bite hits for, what was that, 1? So that's 4 points total. And that will not hit. So 4 points of damage to Grebe. Knocks Grebe down to 9 HP. I've talked a little bit about how I don't think it's realistic, or at least I don't like the effect of giving a character a healing potion in basic D&D and having them pop up immediately. If you only have 2 hit points, that just seems like disproportionate amount of healing. Like, that's not what a healing potion would do, I don't think, not in the sort of low magic of this world. So I think ordinarily that player that gets knocked to 0 and takes a healing potion, at least at low levels, I think I want to play it out where it takes them a whole turn to recover, a whole 10 minutes before they're in fighting shape again. However, in this case, seeing that Fequal is so badly hurt, Blaine can ready Cure Light Wounds or ready a healing potion and just be there in a flash to administer that to Fequal. So I think it can play out a little bit differently. Like it's more like healing at the time of the injury, not this effect of like a round later going in. That said, Blaine is going to step in between Fequal and this troglodyte, and because of that, Blaine is going to have to save versus poison because of the nauseating stench from the oils on the skin of this troglodyte. I should determine the troglodyte's HP. Holy moly, one has 15 and the other one has 8. Blaine sees that the one on Fequal is definitely a little bit beefier and is going to come in there with his warhammer and try to take care of this troglodyte. 15 is not going to do it. That's too bad. So Blaine swings this warhammer and doesn't hit that troglodyte. Fequal moves away from this troglodyte back into Area 3. I think uses his full movement to get out of this area so this troglodyte can't hurt him. Talyra is... okay, so it should have been movement, magic, missiles, melee. Fequal moves. Any magic that's going to go off does not go off. There's no magic going off. Oh, it's movement, missiles, magic, melee. Anyway, here come the missiles. Talyra. An 11 will not hit. Zenith. An 8 will definitely not hit. Blaine has swung already, and Grebe will swing her Warhammer as well. 3. Everyone has missed. This is terrible. We are all going to have to retreat. Talyra, seeing that, shouts, retreat if you can. Initiative. We get the initiative. We all move back into room 3. We use all of our movement to get out. We can get pretty deep into room 3, and Talyra and Zenith take positions behind the middle columns in case these troglodytes come in. The troglodytes I already know are hateful and will attempt to kill any creatures, so they are then going to run in after us. I think they're going to be able to get up to my fighters. So here comes one on Blaine. That is not... Oh, wait. It is going to hit Blaine for 1 point of damage. So that's the first claw. Claw, that does not hit. Bite, that does hit. So 3 points of damage total on Blaine. And Blaine has to save versus poison. 4 does not save, so Blaine now has a -2 to hit. Okay, the second attack is going to come on Grebe. Terrible miss. That is not going to hit. Claw, claw, here comes the bite. The second one just can't catch up with Grebe, and it's trying to claw and trying to gnash its teeth, but does not hit Grebe. Roll for initiative in the new round. 6. My party goes first. And Fequal will now unleash Magic Missile on the beefier Troglodyte. Great. 1 + 1 does 2 points of damage. Terrible. I did magic before missiles, but here's Talyra's missile. 1 more point of damage on that beefy one. Zenith shoots at the other. 10 plus its AC does not hit. Blaine and Grebe feel like they have no choice but to go in there. Blaine is a -2. That is not going to do it. And Grebe, terrible miss. Talyra, feeling this combat is a fail state, says, get out of here. So we roll initiative. 2. Troglodytes get to go first. Okay. Here they come at Blaine. Claw. Misses. Claw. Hits for 4. Claw or bite. Misses. So 4 points of damage. It's going to take Blaine really low. Blaine is now down at 2 HP. Now the other one's coming at Grebe. Claw. Misses. Claw. Hits for 2. And hits for 2. So Grebe is now down to 5. Talyra again shouts, get out of here. My party runs out into the sewer. Fequal is out of his magic missile and down to 1 hit point. Blaine is down on hit points. Grebe is down. It's not looking good. Our movement can get us into the sewer about here. I think I'm going to roll a reaction for the monsters. What I'm curious about is, like, do the monsters pursue us outside of the dungeon itself? A 10. So they're neutral. Their morale is actually a 9. So I beat their morale score. They're not running away. They're just not pursuing us outside of the dungeon. We head back down to this grate that is we've left open. We go back to 1. We're going to look for hidden doors over there. Again, just looking like it's the kind of place where there might be a door. Nope. Once again, no one finds this secret door. Okay, what do we do? Like, what do I do in this case? There is no... I think I just got to burn health potions. We could always return to the city, but we really have nothing to lose but health potions. So if Fequal, Blaine, and Grebe each takes a health potion, Grebe doesn't have to, but I guess it's, a good thing to do. Fequal will absolutely gain back his HP. He has 2 HP, but he is now useless. He's burned his spell for the day. Useless in a fight, I mean. Blaine takes health potion, gets 1 hit point back, takes another health potion, and gets 4 hit points back. 7. Grebe takes a health potion. It gets 1 hit point back. I think I have 4 health potions, so I think Grebe is going to take that last health potion. No, that's crazy. Blaine excuses it off like, hey, I'm the healer. I gotta take health potions. Actually, I do have 4 more after this. I guess I had 8 in there. So Grebe will take 1 more. Gets 4 more hit points back. Okay, that's... So even for some level 2 fighters and a level 2 thief, 2 troglodytes is pretty tough. We spend a turn doing that, maybe 2 turns. We don't know whether those troglodytes were so well hidden from us. Will they be in room 3 hiding from us, or will they have retreated to their sort of guard post? I don't have my yes/no die with me, so the skull on this means they are in room 3. They are not. We creep back into room 3. We're down to just lighting a single torch, just trying not to make any noise, not attract any attention. And we creep up to room 4, where we will listen for noises. Talyra, Aqual, and Blaine, we don't hear anything. So we don't think the troglodytes are in there, in room 4. So I'm going to roll again. Skull means the troglodytes are there. They are not. So we quietly creep into this room. I'm going to roll random encounter. We don't have any random encounter. We quietly creep into room 4 and see those mosaics of gardening scenes, the waist-high black glazed vases filled with long dead flowers. Oh, I'm seeing now that there were HP listed for the troglodytes. Would I have actually taken one out? No, I still wouldn't have done it. So it's a 6 and a 7. They're not in there. There is another archway that leads to the east. So we go around the corners of that hall, that archway, and listen again for noises to see if there's anything there. So Aqual, Blaine, and Talyra. Talyra doesn't, nobody hears anything. Talyra is going to attempt to hide in the shadows. Isn't able to do that, but she attempts to move silently, still makes some creaking noises or something as she walks into the next room. 2 alabaster statues of a man and a woman dressed like warriors of old are in this room. This room is actually very long. So ignore this is not to scale, just my nodes and lines kind of map. Statues are here and here, about midway through it. There's something that happens if I were to have entered from the eastern end of the hall, but I did not. I entered from the western side. So we spend a turn mapping this and searching. At the east end of the hall is it's not a door, it's looks like something that leads out, but there are doors here and here. So we go to the first door to the southwest and we listen for noises. Oh, and Talyra does succeed. So if there's anything down there... We also have seen the drag marks that started in room 3 lead to that first door that Talyra has listened at. This door does not appear to be locked. Having listened and confident that we don't hear anything in there, we head in that direction. Mosaics of nobles bathing and eating in luxuriating poses cover these walls. The floor is wet and it obscures and interrupts the trail of drag marks. So those drag marks that have gone all the way through here from room 3 are kind of obscured here in this room. This room is approximately the same dimensions as room number 5. There are 3 mosaic-lined square pools here, each is 3 feet deep. They have low retaining walls. They are empty and filled with broken masonry. There are 2 things I want to do. One is that I want to spend a couple of turns. I got to retcon something because I do think that after the Jeweler's Sanctum, my party has become very aware of how treasure is scattered and hidden through a dungeon. So we are going to go back to room 4, and it should take us about 20 minutes to search this. We won't go back. This would have happened as we came through and noticed the troglodytes were not there. So we look into a lot of those vases, and we don't find anything. When we get to room 8, and we see that the pools are filled with broken masonry, Talyra and everybody else, I think, spends 10 minutes or so going through those, I'll say 20 minutes, going through those pools, going through the broken masonry. There's a note here that says, searching the central pool, a secret panel is in the retaining wall containing a leather pouch. I think we have to do the search for secret doors to find that. Although I guess if I'm spending 20 minutes doing it, I'm going to find the secret panel. That's how I'm going to rule it for now. I want to play that off fair, but I think if my players came to me and say, we spend 10 minutes searching the pools, I would have them find this. So that's what happens is Talyra gets in there and is like searching through all this broken masonry. A secret panel in the retaining wall opens up and she finds a leather pouch containing 12 opals, 40 GP each. I need to roll random encounters. I don't have one for those 20 minutes. So there is another stairwell here to the northeast. I can guess that it leads into that room where I was with the statues. There's also a door to the west and a little hallway here with a door at the end of it, and then an open passageway here. I think we're going to take the open passageway. So we, of course, like creep as close as we can in those shadows and listen for noises. No one hears... Oh, no, sorry. Someone does. Fequal, if there were noises, thinks, there's nothing, maybe just some scratches that he hears off in the distance. Doesn't think too much of it. Talyra will once again try to hide in the shadows. Doesn't make it. So the torchlight's just thrown on them in such a way that Talyra can't hide in the shadows, and they proceed south. About halfway down this hall, they see that another passage leads to the east with a door, and then there's an open room to the west. They pause before that intersection to try to listen. That listening check I did should work for this as well, because I know there's nothing in room 10 that's going to make noise. They peek in. The rendered walls are painted white. There are roughly made bookshelves stacked haphazardly with dusty, dirty tomes. And there's a dusty but ornate rug on the floor. Do we try to take this rug? Blaine really wants this rug for some reason. So Skull, they convince him not to take the rug. Nope, he's going to take that rug. So Blaine gets to work rolling up that rug. Fequal, of course, examines the books. This library focuses on decay, ruin, and vermin. One book details the Caecilius family history. The book is actually worth some gold to a collector. Fequal pockets it. And during that search, I'm going to roll another encounter. Nothing happens. Another turn passes. We figure we're going to have to go across the hall to this other door. We creep as well as we can. It's funny, when I started drawing this map, my intention was to draw like a really big map, but I did not do that. I drew a little tiny map. We listen at this door. 26. So if there's any sounds in there, Talyra hears them. There's a flickering light appearing under the door, and Talyra hears some kind of scratching, as though someone were writing on some paper with a quill. There is no indication that this door is locked. Because of the sound of a person in there, we are going to formulate an ambush. Zenith and Talyra take up their ranged weapons. I'm wondering if Grebe or Blaine uses a sling. I think Grebe and Blaine just make an agreement that they are going to run in with their warhammers as soon as possible. But because if I'm going to try to stay to those combat phases of morale, movement, missiles, magic, melee, the movement happens first, so they will not move on this round. So they're going to grab their slings. That's what's going to happen. I think that's fair play. I'm not really sure. They're going to do a drop and draw and drop their slings, draw their warhammers, ready for the next round. Because of this, they're going to have Fequal open the door because he does not have a weapon. Fequal is very scared to do this, but nonetheless steps up and opens that door. Talyra and Zenith immediately, SWAT team style, move into position. And what they see is a human sitting at a wooden desk strewn with writing and reading clutter and a lit lantern. There are 6 candlesticks with a strange design on them that they can't make out in this 10 seconds. There is also a carcass crawler curled and drooling in a corner. Gross. I don't know that this is a great moment where I didn't know what was going to be in here. I mean, I sort of saw that it was a private chamber, but just thought this is the best way to approach it. I think when we walk in and we see that monster, Talyra is going to shout at Zenith, like, hit that monster. Oh my gosh. Okay, so Talyra fires at the sleeping carcass crawler and misses. She is terrible at this. Yeah. Zenith then fires at the carcass crawler and hits for 6 points of damage. I don't see that the carcass crawler has a designated, well, it's got 14 hit points and I do 6. So carcass crawler is now awake with 8 HP, and that's awful. And now I don't think there's enough space in here for anyone to kind of, shoot a sling. I think we're just crouched at the doorway, and because we didn't burst in because we saw a human in there, Blaine and Grebe are sort of standing back behind and not going in. So I'm going to roll initiative. We get to go first. Do we bust in and kill that carcass crawler. Yep. Okay, so I know what this person in there is going to do on their attack. I don't think there's... I mean, we walked in and just started firing arrows into its pet carcass crawler. So I don't think there's any way we get around this fight. We have won the initiative. Talyra and Zenith step into the room now. Missiles come first. I don't have any magic anyway, so Talyra, does that hit? Dang, it does not hit the carcass crawler. Zenith, that's definitely a 5. 2 more arrows fly uselessly in this room at a curled up giant sleeping carcass crawler. I think at this moment, Blaine and Grebe will step in and shoot their slings at the carcass crawler because we've got initiative. So 1 point and no points because of that miss. Carcass crawler's down to 7 HP, but this is going to be bad news, I think. Malarion the Unwashed is a 5th level cleric, and they stand up and say, "What are you doing here?" and brandish this warped bone that is carved into a wand. It is oozing yellow pus from the tip. Sees that Talyra was sort of the one shouting and leading, so uses this wand of fetid curses on Talyra, points it at her, says its magic phrase, and this horrible feeling of poison comes out against her. That is a save versus wands. Hers is a 14. 6. This disgusting atmosphere envelops Talyra, and instantly horrible sores and boils start erupting on her skin. She is in considerable agony and now gets a -2 penalty to attacks and all saving throws for 5 days. This is horrible. Malarion then shouts to his pet carcass crawler, Quizquill, "Take care of these foul intruders." And this carcass crawler, moves over to us. It has totally normal movement. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that it does that much damage. It's going after Zenith, who hit it with the arrow. 17 is going to hit Zenith. So Zenith gets hit by this carcass crawler, takes 8 damage, and then has to save versus paralysis, which is a 16. Doesn't do it. So for 30 minutes, 3 turns, Zenith is paralyzed. The carcass crawler does this by lashing out with a tentacle, and Zenith loses 8 hit points there. Now, what I just learned is that Blaine's Cure Light Wounds will cure that paralysis, but I think, given the nature of this fight, we don't want to be in here having anyone else get paralyzed. So I'm going to roll initiative. 2. They get to go first. Malarion now recognizes the cleric in this party and points that wand at Blaine. Blaine has to save versus wands. That is a 12 for Blaine. Saves. That sickening like magic sweeps out, but Blaine has this fortitude to resist. The carcass crawler would begin devouring the paralyzed victim, but I think because there are so many people here, it swings out at Grebe with its tentacle. 7 is going to miss Grebe. It swings a tentacle out at Grebe, but then sort of focuses back on Zenith, and it is my initiative. Fequal grabs Talyra as best as he can without touching her skin, which is erupting in boils, pulls her back through that door. Blaine does the same thing to Zenith, pulls her paralyzed body back in there, and Grebe slams that door closed. Of course, that doesn't necessarily stop Malarion and the carcass crawler. If I'm dragging, I'm going to move it like a half movement. We go north, back into the room with the empty pools. Does Malarion pursue us? A skull says he does. Yep. So a moment later, as we get to room 8, we hear that door open again, and he has a 60-foot range on that wand. We have not gotten out of that range. So once again, he targets Blaine with that wand, speaks its magic word. Blaine is going to save versus wands, a 12. Oh my god, Blaine doesn't make it. Gets the -2 penalty to attacks and saving throws for 1 day. So Blaine has these horrible boils erupting on his skin. We can get another 40 feet. Will get us up into room 5. This is awesome and horrifying. We are now close to this end of the door of the hallway where we had seen an exit that seemed to have a stairwell in it. So thinking that might be a quick way out of here, Grebe shouts to everyone, up these stairs, and we all turn east and start, dragging our wounded up in that direction. But where the stairwell used to lead to a villa, it now terminates at a bricked up opening. So we are trapped up on these stairs right now. Malarion gets another 40 feet and his carcass crawler get another 40 feet closer to us. They are right through that door. We're going to have to spend our time. They don't have eyes on us. We're going to have to dash, although that's not a technical term in basic. We're going to have to run back through this hallway past them. Oh yeah, Zenith is paralyzed. I was going to have Zenith take a shot, but Zenith is paralyzed. So we did our movement. We ran up there. On our magic phase, Blaine casts Cure Light Wounds onto Zenith, unparalyzing her. That at least gets us some movement, and then we're just going to run for it down here. So I'm going to roll for initiative. If they get initiative, they're going to get a little bit closer to us. They do. They block us off. They're able to get to the front of that hallway. Malarion, who does he target this time? I think he's going to target Grebe. Speaks the cursed word for that wand, and Grebe saves versus wands at a 15. Doesn't save. So Grebe gets the -2 for 6 days. These chaotic notes are the kinds I always take in D&D. No formatting to them, just words on paper. We're trapped in there. That carcass crawler has enough room to get to us. I think it sees Zenith as its meal, but Blaine is sort of in the way. So the carcass crawler goes at Blaine. An 18 hits Blaine. So Blaine takes 8 damage and drops to 0 hit points. In addition, we'll be paralyzed for 80 minutes. So Blaine drops. On our turn, Fequal sees this, grabs a healing potion, the last one, I believe. Maybe we had a couple more. Pours it into Blaine's mouth. Blaine recovers 4 hit points. Not bad. Talyra, covered in these boils and sores, just shouts, "Run!" Everyone tears off to the west. We can get to the end of room 5 and through that space. I was kind of doing my distance wrong before. It doesn't matter. They would have caught up to us anyway. But we can get pretty far, even into room 3. We're going to see if they come after us. Skull says they do. No, they don't come after us. So watching us scamper away on our turn, Malarion and Quizquill, his carcass crawler, do not pursue us. We're in terrible shape. Talyra, Grebe, and Blaine all have a -2 penalty to them because of this Wand of Fetid Curses for varying lengths of time. Grebe for 6 days, Talyra for 5, and Blaine for 1. Oh, Blaine couldn't run because Blaine is paralyzed for the next 80 minutes. So we're dragging Blaine. And nonetheless, we can get to 3. They don't pursue us. So gross. We drag Blaine out into the sewer. I think if I were DMing this, I would have my party roll like a save versus poison as they're dragging a paralyzed person through the sewer water. But I'm not going to do that right now. We escape just exhausted. Think of this -2 to all attacks and saves, like whatever constitutional like energy we have to spend. We're doing it at a disadvantage, at least those 3 characters, as we move towards Area 1, lower that grate, and escape out of the sewers. In terrible shape, just a foul-smelling, boils erupting on 3 of our characters' skins, and we limp back in to Longfelt. Because it is still early in the day, like it is only 10:30 a.m. Wow, no one has ever found out who Blaine's church is, or deity. So instead, Talyra says we must go to the Temple of Cathalea. We then make our way through the city to the Temple of Cathalea, where we ask for Josephine. These weeping sores and boils on 3 characters' skin. It looks very serious. The clerics of that temple direct us to a room and tell us to take off all of our clothes. They're covered in sewage anyway. We look terrible, and we're carrying weapons, so they're not really happy about that. They kind of want to get us unclothed and disarmed, I think, is their real intent, just to keep themselves safe and keep us safe. Once that happens, once they isolate us, is Josephine on duty? Skull says she is not. I'm not on duty, but Josephine is away. So other clerics attend to us and they ask, what happened to you? And we explain this. We took a job from the Guild of Sewer Persons. They've lost a member down in the sewers. We found evidence that they were attacked and dragged deep into these caverns. We followed the tracks and we ran across this unwashed cleric who attacked us with this wand that magically caused these sores and boils to appear on us. They are able to cast Cure Light Wounds and revive Blaine from his paralysis, and it's going to take us several days to come back to full health. They, of course, ask how we knew of the temple, if we are followers of Talyra, and we say no, we aren't, but we did once have a cleric in our party named Tori, who was a cleric here and meant a lot to us, and sadly passed away on one of our adventures. This is all Talyra speaking. Talyra begins weeping because her best friend Virago is gone and has been gone for more than a week now, I believe. She's just feeling this loss, and it's just starts crying and cannot bring herself to continue speaking. Fequal kind of steps in and just gently says, we knew of the goodness of the Temple of Talyra, and we didn't know exactly where our cleric here worshipped, so we came to you hoping to find healing and recover so that we might continue with this mission and hopefully find this missing sewer person. The clerics have to consider that as a noble mission, so they will put us up for a couple of days, feed us, give us some clean clothes, just street clothes. We'll still have to get some new adventuring clothes, I believe. And most importantly, they will give us care for those boils and sores. I paused because I was wondering, are we going to stay here for 6 days for Grebe to heal up completely, or will we venture out to the Silver Flogger? I think they say no, you're going to be quarantined. Blaine, Talyra, and Grebe are put into a room to be quarantined and have no contact. Fequal and Zenith will stay in sort of a barracks or something. I think they want to keep them separate too, but they'll put them up, they'll feed them. We pass 6 days here. So it's 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So over those 6 days, our wounds are healing. Fequal is getting restless because he has not checked in with Balfour and told Balfour what is going on. Talyra, when fully recovered, gives 100 gold to the temple and thanks them just effusively for their support. I think during these 6 days, they have counseled with her on her friend Virago being absent, and they have realized that this young woman lacks support, and they want to give it to her and heal her up. They think maybe this adventure is too dangerous for this party. I'll look up what level it is. Level 2 to 3. So it might just be a little bit too dangerous. And also my party is greatly diminished now. So Ballad was poisoned on the 11th. We're now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're just on the 10th day. Just as Grebe heals up completely, Ballad also heals up completely from his poisoning. So he is scanning the city, looking for his company, trying to rejoin them as they emerge from this temple. So that's where I'm going to end this session. They will be a mostly full party of 6 people if they decide to head back to the sewer. They do check in with the Guild of Sewer Persons and tell them what happened, that they found evidence of the attack on Hal. They followed it to a great extent, but just weren't able to, tell them they got attacked, and before they could get any further, they didn't get any more clues on what might be happening there. They do earn a paltry sum of XP. There are 5 of them. They each earn 156 XP. That will bump Talyra up to level 3. So I'm going to roll for Talyra's hit points. Wow, Talyra is blessed on hit points. I've rolled 3 4s, a 4 at each level. So Talyra is now at 12 HP, and I will upgrade her skills off camera and apply the rest of that XP. This might bring Fequal over to level 2. Just do a quick check on that. No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's where I will end the session, and they are back in Longfelt. Talyra, I think, after that very important healing time with the clerics of Cathalea, realizes how much she misses Virago and is really letting that loss sink in and feel it. She felt the power of it before, but wasn't able to process the grief because Balfour and Faqual thought it better to get her moving again and get her out on an adventure. With this time where she's forcibly not able to adventure, she's feeling the impact and processing this loss and wondering if she'll ever see her friend Virago again. So I will see you in the next session, which will be session 15.